A silent question mark stands carved in stone. This video explores 25 of history's most baffling archaeological puzzles, artifacts and sites whose original purpose remains a complete mystery. By the end, you will gain a new perspective on the past, seeing it not as a solved equation, but as a conversation full of surprising gaps. We will encounter a 2,000-year-old device, considered the world's first computer, and a manuscript written in a language no one can read. What does it mean when the minds in the world cannot figure out why something was made? These are not mere curiosities. They are direct windows into the ingenuity and the utterly foreign priorities of civilizations that came before us. Each mystery challenges our most basic assumptions about human history. What can we truly claim to know about those who walked here centuries or even ago? Archaeology is not a simple act of finding and knowing. It is a profound act of listening to whispers. We uncover a tool, a structure, a piece of art, but the instruction manual for its use, the cultural conversation that surrounded it, has often faded into silence. This fundamental gap between an object and its original purpose is where our deepest mysteries are born. When a society declines or transforms, the everyday knowledge that was once as common as the air its people breathed can vanish completely. What remains is a physical shell, beautiful and enigmatic, waiting for us to ask the right questions. To bridge this gap, researchers employ a fascinating toolkit of methods. They might look for similar objects from neighboring cultures, a process called comparative analysis, hoping a known cousin can shed light on an unknown sibling. They attempt experimental replication, trying to use a strange tool or build a peculiar structure to see what practical speed, productivity, and often a clear separation between the practical and the spiritual. Ancient societies frequently operated under a completely different set of rules, where the symbolic, the ritual, and the functional were woven into a single, inseparable fabric. Consider how, for decades, some finely crafted stone objects from certain prehistoric sites were simply as primitive hammer stones or grinding tools. Only much later, with more careful study, did researchers notice a complete absence of the telltale wear marks that such heavy use would create. This led to a revolutionary rethink. Perhaps these were not tools for manual labor at all, but carefully made tokens for trade or ritual objects passed down through generations, valued for their form and material rather than their brute force. The initial misinterpretation was not a lack of intelligence. It was a failure of imagination, constrained by our own cultural bias toward utilitarian purpose. This is the mental shift we must make as we explore these 25 mysteries. We have to willingly set aside what seems obvious or logical to us, and entertain possibilities that might feel strange or even illogical from a 21st century viewpoint. Was that giant a message to the gods, not a map for travelers? Could that intricate bronze device be a model of cosmic philosophy rather than a piece of machinery? By questioning our own perspective first, we open a door to far more creative and often more accurate interpretations of the silent past. One object stands as the ultimate symbol of this gap between our assumptions and ancient reality. In the year 1900, sponge divers working in deep waters off the coast of a small Greek island made a stunning discovery. Amid the scattered treasures of a 2,000-year-old Roman shipwreck, they recovered a lump of corroded bronze and wood, about the size of a large book. It was so encrusted and fragmented that for decades it sat in a museum drawer, considered a curious but unremarkable artifact. Then, researchers began to look closer. What they found inside would shatter our understanding of ancient technology. This was the mechanism. Through painstaking analysis, including advanced X-ray imaging, scientists revealed it to be an astoundingly complex clockwork device. Consisting of at least 30 precise interlocking bronze gears housed in a wooden case. Its front and back faces were covered with finely inscribed dials and pointers. When intact and turned by a hand crank, this machine did something extraordinary. It could predict the positions of the sun and moon, track the phases of the moon, forecast solar and lunar eclipses years in advance, and even model the irregular orbit of the moon. It likely showed the cycles of the Panhellenic Games, a major ancient sporting event. In essence, it was a mechanical model of the known universe, a portable planetarium of breathtaking ingenuity crafted over 2,000 years ago. The immediate question is not just what it did, but why it was made. Who was its intended user, and what was the true purpose of such a precise and costly instrument? Some scholars propose it was a philosopher's teaching tool, a dynamic aid for demonstrating celestial mechanics to students. Others suggest it served a practical function for wealthy patrons planning important events, as eclipses and planetary alignments held great significance. Perhaps it guided sailors, though its fragility makes this seem unlikely for open sea travel. The most compelling theory views it not merely as a calculator, but as a profound statement. In a world where the motions of the heavens were seen as the direct expression of divine order, the mechanism may have been a ceremonial object, a physical manifestation of cosmic harmony. Its very existence, ticking away with mathematical precision, would have been a powerful demonstration of human understanding of a rational, predictable cosmos. This single device forces a monumental rethink. We are accustomed to a linear view of technological progress, where complex machinery belongs firmly to the modern era. The mechanism, a relic from the 2nd century before the Common Era, demolishes that timeline. It tells us that the ancient Greek world possessed a level of mechanical engineering and scientific ambition we never credited it with. Its sophistication would not be matched again in Europe for well over 1,000 years, so we are left with a haunting reality. We can decipher what the gears do, but the whisper of its ultimate purpose, the hands that held it and the eyes that read its dials, remain just out of reach. It is a masterpiece of known function and unknown intent, a ghost from a history far more advanced than we imagined. While the mechanism is a puzzle of advanced engineering, our next mystery is one of pure, undeciphered communication. In the rare book library of Yale University rests an artifact that has understanding for over a century. It is known as the manuscript, a small, dense codex created in the 15th century. Its pages are filled from edge to edge with elegant, curling characters written in an alphabet that matches no known language on Earth. This strange text is accompanied by even stranger illustrations, vibrant and perplexing. There are detailed drawings of plants that do not correspond to any known botanical species, their leaves and stems arranged in impossible configurations. There are intricate astrological charts featuring unfamiliar constellations and zodiac symbols. Perhaps most famously, there are sections showing numerous female figures, depicted in what appear to be interconnected pools or baths of a greenish liquid, their forms integrated into the plumbing of the page itself. From the moment it resurfaced in modern times, the manuscript has been a siren call to code breakers. Teams of elite cryptographers who cracked military ciphers in times of global conflict have turned their formidable skills to its pages and walked away baffled. Advanced computer algorithms and artificial intelligence have analyzed its patterns, searching for the hidden grammar of a real language, yet no consensus has emerged. Not a single word, not even a proper name, has been reliably translated. This complete failure to read it is what elevates it from a curious old book to one of history's greatest enigmas. The theories about its origin are as varied as the drawings on its pages. Some researchers have proposed it is an elaborate, meaningless hoax, crafted in the Renaissance to be sold as a mysterious curiosity to a wealthy patron. Others argue passionately for its authenticity, suggesting it records a lost natural language or a forgotten dialect, its knowledge preserved in a script that died with its last speaker. Given the herbal and biological imagery, many speculate it is an encoded, a book of secrets containing recipes for medicines derived from plants now extinct or fantastical. Another school of thought sees it as an alchemical treatise, where the text and diagrams are not meant to be read literally, but as symbolic representations of spiritual processes. The bathing women representing purification or transformation. What makes the manuscript so uniquely haunting is its simultaneous familiarity and absolute foreignness. It looks like a book. It feels like a book. It has the structure of a scholarly work, divided into distinct thematic sections, yet it communicates nothing we can comprehend. It is a whisper from the past that has reached our ears, but spoken in a vocabulary of sound we have utterly forgotten. Every attempt to decipher it forces us to confront a fundamental question. How do you understand a message when you cannot even identify the sender's intent? Was this meant to inform, to deceive, to guide, or to mystify? Until that basic riddle is solved, the manuscript remains the ultimate unreadable story, a closed door to a room we can only imagine. Deep in the humid river valleys of Costa, a different kind of perfection lies half-buried in the earth. Here, the culture, which flourished from around 800 to 1500 of the Common Era, left behind a legacy not of written words, but of profound and silent geometry. They carved hundreds of stone spheres, ranging from the size of a bowling ball to colossal orbs over 2 meters across and weighing many tons. Their craftsmanship is breathtaking. Using only stone tools, these ancient artisans achieved a precision that seems to defy their technology, shaping granite and other hard stones into forms of near mathematical perfection. The surfaces are often remarkably smooth, the curves seemingly flawless. Yet for all their undeniable skill, the people of the left us no legend, no oral history, and certainly no instruction manual to explain why they invested such immense effort into creating these enigmatic objects. The spheres were discovered in the 1930s as agricultural companies cleared jungle land, and many were unceremoniously rolled away from their original sites by tractors or even used as exotic garden ornaments, severing forever their connection to the precise spots where they were first placed. This displacement is a tragedy for archaeology because context is everything. Where a sphere sat in relation to others, or to a settlement, or to the horizon, could have been the key to unlocking its meaning. Without that, we are left with a beautiful, silent array of possibilities. Some researchers, noting that certain groups of spheres were found aligned in patterns, suggest they functioned as astronomical observatories, their positions marking solstices or equinoxes. Others see them as powerful symbols of social status, the larger and more perfect spheres denoting the authority and prestige of a community leader or family line. Could they have marked territorial boundaries or sacred pathways? Perhaps they were physical representations of celestial bodies, a permanent model of the cosmos here on Earth. The most haunting theory is that their very perfection was the purpose. In a world without mass-produced symmetry, the creation of a flawless sphere from unyielding stone may have been an act of profound philosophical or spiritual significance. a way to manifest ideal form and harmony in the physical world. The stones do not whisper their secrets. They simply exist, these perfect, patient puzzles scattered in the grass, reminding us that a society can express its deepest values not in texts we can read, but in shapes we can only wonder at. From perfect spheres, we move to an object that seems to defy time itself. In the summer of 1936, a couple hiking along a creek bed near London, Texas, noticed an unusual piece of rock with a bit of wood protruding from it. They cracked it open to find a hammerhead snugly encased inside, its handle partially transformed into coal. This was the London hammer. On the surface, it appeared to be a simple tool from the 19th century American frontier, a common iron head fitted to a hickory handle. The profound mystery lay not in its design, but in its geological prison. The rock that had formed completely around the hammer was identified as a Cretaceous limestone nodule, a type of stone that typically forms over 100 million years ago. This presented an impossible paradox. How could a clearly man-made object be found sealed inside stone that predated the existence of humans by tens of millions of years? The discovery immediately ignited fierce debate and wild speculation. Could it be evidence of a lost, advanced civilization from a prehistoric age, one that possessed metalworking long before our accepted timeline of history? Some even suggested more fanciful ideas, involving visitors from other times or places. For mainstream geology and archaeology, however, the explanation lies in the complex and often deceptive processes of the natural world. Scientists point to a phenomenon known as concretion. Minerals in water can, under the right chemical conditions, precipitate and harden around an object relatively quickly, forming a hard, rock-like shell in a matter of centuries, not eons. In this view, the hammer is exactly what it appears to be, a tool from the 1800s that was lost or discarded. Over time, mineral-rich waters percolating through the Texas soil encased it, creating a convincing but misleading fossil-like appearance. The surrounding rock matrix was not ancient Cretaceous bedrock, but a much younger concretion that merely resembled it. This rational explanation is widely accepted, yet the London hammer endures as a powerful cultural icon. Its true puzzle is not about the hammer's origin, but about the seductive power of context. It demonstrates how a single, startling discovery, removed from its full environmental story, can challenge our entire framework of history. It forces us to ask, how do we distinguish between a genuine historical anomaly and a masterful trick of geology? The hammer reminds us that the past is not only buried, it is sometimes beautifully and confusingly camouflaged, wrapped in stone that tells a story we must learn to read with extreme care. The desert floor of southern Peru holds a gallery meant for the sky. Spread across nearly 200 square miles of the plains are hundreds of enormous lines and shapes so vast they defy comprehension from the ground. Created by removing the dark, sun-baked surface stones to reveal the lighter earth beneath, these designs have endured for over 2,000 years in one of the driest places on Earth. They form perfect geometric shapes, miles-long triangles and trapezoids, and stunning depictions of animals: a hummingbird with a long, delicate beak, a spider, a monkey with a spiraling tail. Even a figure often called the astronaut due to its large, round head. The precision is staggering, with lines running arrows straight for kilometers across uneven terrain. Yet the most defining feature of the lines is also their central mystery. Their full, magnificent form is only visible from high above, from the vantage point of an airplane or a distant hillside. This simple fact leads to the profound question that has captivated researchers for decades. Why would a culture, working centuries before powered flight, invest such immense communal effort into creating art they themselves could never see as a complete picture? The leading theories attempt to step into the worldview of the people, for whom the arid landscape was both home and a constant challenge. Water was, and is, the most precious resource in this desert. Many scholars believe the lines were intimately connected to rituals pleading with or thanking deities for life-giving water. The shapes may have served as sacred pathways for ceremonial processions, with participants walking the lines to connect with spiritual forces. The trapezoids, some suggest, could have been grand gathering spaces for community rites. From an elevated position on nearby foothills, these gathering areas would have been visible to leaders or priests, turning the desert into a vast outdoor temple. Another compelling line of inquiry looks upward, not just across the plain. Some researchers have found alignments between the long linear and key astronomical events, such as the solstice sun or certain star clusters significant in Andean cosmology. In this view, the desert was a giant calendar or observatory, its lines tracking the cyclical movements of celestial bodies that governed agricultural and ritual cycles. Perhaps the most intriguing idea is that the art was never intended for human eyes at all. It was created as offerings for the gods, who resided in the sky and could look down upon the intricate gifts laid out for them. The animal figures might represent constellations or spiritual protectors, their forms a permanent prayer etched into the earth itself. What makes the lines so hauntingly powerful is the total absence of a written key from their creators. The culture left no stone for their desert canvas. We are left interpreting intention through the lens of archaeology and anthropology, piecing together clues from pottery, burial sites, and the harsh logic of their environment. Every explanation is a hypothesis, a best guess at the conversation between a people and their world. The lines themselves remain silent, a breathtaking testament to human ambition that transforms the entire landscape into a single, unsolved message. We fly over them now and see art, but we are still learning how to read the language in which it was written. The precision of the lines is a marvel of planning on a flat, open canvas, but high in the Andes, another culture achieved a different kind of perfection, one that defies gravity itself. Perched on a steep hill overlooking the ancient Inca capital of, the complex of presents a sight that challenges belief. Its defining feature is a series of 3 zigzagging defensive walls, built from blocks of limestone so enormous they seem to belong to the realm of myth. Some stones stand over 8 meters tall and weigh more than 100 tons, yet the true wonder is not their size, but their fit. The Inca stonemasons took these colossal, irregularly shaped boulders and joined them together like pieces of a 3-dimensional stone puzzle. The edges are beveled, the corners rounded, and the seams between blocks are so impossibly tight that, as the famous saying goes, not even a razor blade can be inserted. This was accomplished without iron tools, without the wheel for transport, and without mortar of any kind. The how of its construction, involving meticulous stone shaping, earthen ramps, and immense communal labor, is a testament to Inca engineering prowess. But the deeper mystery lies in the why of this specific, painstaking design. If the goal was simply to build a strong defensive fortress, why not use smaller, more easily rectangular blocks? The jigsaw puzzle approach seems unnecessarily complex. This has led scholars to look beyond pure military function. Some note that the zigzag shape of the walls, when viewed from above, resembles the teeth of a puma, an animal sacred to the Inca and a symbol of itself, which was laid out in the shape of the animal. In this view was the head of the puma, its walls forming the teeth, making the entire structure a monumental piece of sacred symbolism carved into the landscape. Other theories explore more practical, yet still profound, purposes. The interlocking, polygonal design is exceptionally resilient to earthquakes, a common threat in the Andes. During a tremor, the stones in a rigid, rectangular wall would crack and collapse, but these irregular blocks can shift and settle slightly before locking back into place, a brilliant ancient form of seismic engineering. There are also intriguing acoustic properties within the walls, where certain niches and angles may have been designed to amplify specific sounds for ceremonial use. So was a fortress, a temple, a symbolic sculpture, or a feat of anti-seismic genius? The most compelling answer is that it was likely all these things at once. The Inca worldview did not separate the practical from the spiritual. A wall that defended the city also honored the gods, represented a sacred animal, and conversed with the powerful forces of the earth itself. The stones do not reveal a single purpose, but a layered intention, a physical philosophy where strength, sanctity, and harmony with nature were one and the same. We can measure the gaps between the blocks and find none, but the full meaning of that perfection remains a conversation held in stone, waiting for us to learn its language. A single coin can whisper of an entire world that might have been. On the coast of Maine, at a well-documented Native American settlement site known as, archaeologists made a find that sent ripples through the understanding of early transatlantic contact. Among thousands of artifacts from indigenous daily life, they uncovered a small, worn silver coin. It was not a colonial piece, nor anything from the Americas. Expert analysis identified it as a Norse penny, minted between the years 1065 and 1080 of the Common Era, over 400 years before the voyages of Christopher Columbus. This is the Maine Penny, and it holds a unique and perplexing status. It remains the only pre-Columbian Norse object ever found in the United States. Its very existence on that shoreline is a riddle wrapped in a mystery. How did it get there? The immediate, thrilling possibility is that it represents physical evidence of Norse explorers venturing much farther south than their known settlement at El Meadows in Newfoundland. Could Viking ships have sailed down the North American coast, perhaps trading or making brief contact with indigenous communities as far south as present-day Maine? The coin is a tantalizing piece of evidence that seems to point directly to that dramatic narrative. Yet, the story is not so simple. The coin was found alone. No other Norse artifacts, like tools, nails, or definitive structural remains, have ever been found in the region to corroborate a visit or settlement. This profound isolation forces archaeologists to consider other, less direct journeys for the coin. A compelling alternative theory is that it traveled not in a Norse longship, but through extensive indigenous trade networks that span the continent. The Norse at El Meadows did have documented, though sometimes difficult, interactions with the peoples they called. It is entirely plausible that a silver penny, a curious and exotic object, could have been traded from hand to hand over generations. Moving slowly southward from Newfoundland through established routes until it finally came to rest in Maine, hundreds of miles and perhaps a century or more from its point of origin. There is also the more mundane, though important, possibility of a much later historical loss. Could the coin have been part of a modern collector's collection, dropped or discarded at the site in the 19th or early 20th century? The archaeological context at the site was secure, making this less likely, but it is a skepticism that science must entertain. So, the Maine penny stands at a crossroads of interpretation. It is either a monumental clue to a forgotten chapter of exploration, or a fascinating case of an object on an incredible journey of its own, divorced from its original creators. This solitary silver disc embodies the delicate challenge of archaeology. A single, out-of-place artifact can suggest a sweeping revision of history, but without corroborating evidence, it remains a brilliant, frustrating question mark. It hints at connections across the Atlantic that history books are only beginning to acknowledge, a fleeting touch between worlds, all contained in a coin no bigger than a thumbnail. Its power lies not in what it proves, but in the vast, silent possibilities it continues to suggest. While a single coin hints at lost connections, another mystery lies in objects that were once commonplace. Scattered across the lands of the former Roman Empire, from Britain to Hungary, archaeologists have unearthed over 100 curious bronze artifacts. Each is a hollow, 12-sided geometric form, known as a Roman dodecahedron. They are small enough to fit comfortably in your hand, cast with exquisite care. Every one of the 12 pentagonal faces contains a circular hole of a different diameter, and at each corner sits a small knob. They date from the 2nd to the 4th century of the Common Era, a time of detailed Roman records, sprawling trade, and immense cultural exchange. And yet, in all that wealth of writing, art, and administrative documentation, there is not a single mention, not one drawing or description of these objects. They are ghosts in the archaeological record, physically present but contextually silent. This absence is what makes them so profoundly puzzling. Here was an object manufactured in significant numbers, distributed across thousands of miles, crafted with skill and consistency. It must have had a clear, widely understood purpose. And yet, that purpose vanished so completely it left no echo in history. The sheer variety of modern theories proposed for their use is a testament to our own bewilderment. Some see them as practical tools. The different-sized holes could suggest a gauge for calibrating the diameter of pipe or coin blanks. Perhaps they were part of a sophisticated surveying instrument for calculating distances. Others have proposed they were used in weaving, as a guide for creating gloves, with the knobs holding the yarn. There is a decorative theory that they were simply ornate candlestick holders, though wax residue is rarely found. Given the Roman fascination with geometry and the cosmos, many scholars lean toward a ceremonial or religious function. The dodecahedron is a complex, perfect shape, often associated with the heavens in later philosophical traditions. Could these have been sacred objects used in rituals, or symbolic tokens of membership in a particular cult or guild? The most haunting possibility is that they were a common tool for a common task, something so ordinary that no Roman ever thought to write it down. Imagine a future archaeologist finding a potato masher or a corkscrew with no cultural context. They might theorize it was a weapon, a ceremonial scepter, or a scientific instrument, missing its utterly mundane truth. The Roman force us to confront a humbling reality. An entire empire's worth of common knowledge can evaporate, leaving behind only beautiful, silent puzzles. We hold these bronze forms and see geometry and skill, but the hands that used them and the daily lives they were part of are whispers we can no longer hear. High on the mist-shrouded plateaus of central Laos lies a landscape dotted with silent giants. Here, across the province, thousands of enormous stone jars are scattered in clusters, some standing alone, others gathered in groups of hundreds. Carved from sandstone and granite, these massive vessels rise as high as a person's chest, with the largest weighing several tons. They date to Southeast Asia's Iron Age, roughly from 500 before the Common Era to 500 after, a time of emerging complex societies. Local legend offers a poetic explanation. telling of a race of ancient giants who crafted the jars to brew vast quantities of rice wine for a great celebration. While this story captures the imagination, archaeologists search for a purpose grounded in the rituals and realities of the people who made them. The prevailing theory, supported by findings of human bone fragments and associated artifacts like ceramic pots and iron tools around some jar sites, is that they served as funerary urns. In this view, the jars were part of an excarnation practice, where the remains of the departed were placed inside to decompose or be stored, a final resting place that elevated them above the earth. Others suggest they were monumental storage vessels for grain, water, or, yes, perhaps even fermented drinks for community feasts. Yet the mystery is twofold, a puzzle of purpose wrapped in an enigma of engineering. The source of the stone for many of these jars is not local. Quarries have been identified miles away across rugged, forested terrain. How did this society, without the wheel or draft animals, transport ton blocks of stone? Did they use log rollers, river currents, or ingenious systems of ropes and leverage? The sheer effort implies a powerful, shared motivation, a cultural imperative that justified moving mountains, literally, to place these vessels in specific, often elevated locations. Compounding the puzzle is the jar makers' elusive nature. They left behind no grand cities, no written records, and few other structural remains. Their legacy is almost entirely these silent, stoic forms. This makes the jars not just objects, but proxies for an entire civilization, their only loud statement to the future. The landscape itself holds further secrets, with unexplored areas potentially hiding more jars, and the tragic presence of unexploded ordnance from later conflicts limiting archaeological access. So we are left with vessels that could hold grain, wine, or ashes, standing in a field. Their true contents may have been physical, but their lasting meaning is symbolic, a testament to a community's desire to make a permanent mark. To honor their cycles of life and loss, with a weight that would endure long after their own names were forgotten. The jars ask us not only what they held, but what they held for the people who carved them. What profound need was great enough to move stone across mountains? The stone jars of Laos stand as silent communal monuments, but from the same ancient soil emerges a mystery of a far more personal and intimate nature. In the dusty ruins of the culture, which flourished in what is now Iraq between 5,500 and 4,000 years before the Common Era, archaeologists have uncovered small figurines that defy easy explanation. These are each figure is a haunting blend of the familiar and the utterly alien. They possess humanoid bodies, often depicted standing or sitting, but their heads are elongated and distinctly reptilian, with slanted, almond-shaped eyes and what appears to be a scaled texture. Their most consistent and poignant feature, however, is their posture. Many of these figures are shown cradling infants, or in poses that clearly suggest nursing or caring for a child. The infants themselves share the same strange, lizard-like features. This is not a single odd artifact, but a repeated artistic motif, crafted with clear intention across centuries. In a period and place known for pottery and tools that reflect daily agricultural life, these figurines stand apart, a stark and mysterious departure from the norm. Their very existence in a pre-literate society, one that left us no written stories or myths, turns each one into a riddle without a key. Were they deities? In many later Mesopotamian cultures, gods were often depicted as hybrid creatures, blending human and animal traits to signify otherworldly power. These lizard-like beings could represent ancient water or fertility gods, their reptilian forms linking them to the life, giving yet unpredictable rivers of the region. The nurturing poses would then make profound sense, symbolizing divine care for the community and the land. Another possibility points toward shamanistic ritual. Perhaps these figurines were not gods, but representations of spiritual guides or mythical ancestors believed to have taken animal forms. They could have been used in coming-of-age ceremonies, healing rituals, or rites intended to ensure safe childbirth and the health of children. Holding one of these objects during a ceremony might have been a way to connect with a protective, ancient force. Then there is the simplest, yet perhaps most radical, interpretation. Could they have been children's toys, imaginative figures from a culture whose storytelling embraced the fantastic? Even if this were true, it simply pushes the mystery one step further. What stories were being told? What kind of imagination, shared by parent and child, populated their world with benevolent, baby-holding lizard people? The eerie silence surrounding them is what gives these figurines their enduring power. We can analyze their craftsmanship, map their distribution, and compare them to later mythologies, but we cannot hear the lullaby a mother might have sung while a child clutched such a figure. We cannot know the prayer whispered during a ritual that involved them. They are a direct window into a symbolic world, but the glass is frosted, showing only vague, suggestive shapes. They force us to confront the vast interior landscape of a lost culture, its fears, its hopes, and the creatures it invented to make sense of a mysterious universe. These small, fired clay beings hold a quiet challenge, asking us to consider what our own most common artifacts might say to future diggers, and what essential truths about us might be forever lost in translation. Its sheer physical presence is overwhelming. The Codex Gigas, known more dramatically as the Devil's Bible, is a manuscript that commands attention not just for its content, but for its staggering scale. Created in the early 13th century within a Benedictine monastery in Bohemia, this book is a true giant, requiring 2 people to lift it. Its pages, made from the skins of over 160 donkeys, hold a complete Latin Bible, historical chronicles, medical texts, and formulas for exorcism. But one illustration has forever defined its legacy. Near the center of the tome, occupying an entire page, is a haunting, full-color portrait of the devil. He is depicted in isolation, a grotesque and powerful figure with clawed hands and feet, a green face, and a body covered in what seems like white fur staring out from the vellum. This single, vivid image birthed the legend that gives the book its popular name. Folklore insists a monk, condemned to be walled up alive for breaking his vows, promised to create the greatest book ever made in a single night to atone for his sins. When he realized the task was impossible, he prayed not to God, but to the fallen angel Lucifer, who finished the manuscript in exchange for the monk's soul, adding the self-portrait as a signature. It is a gripping story of desperation and supernatural pact, but the true mystery lies not in myth, but in the tangible, deliberate choices of its real-world creators. We know what the book contains. The puzzle is why it was made in this specific, monumental form, and what the prominent devil portrait was truly meant to accomplish within the walls of a medieval monastery. Was this immense labor an act of profound penance, as the legend suggests, though stretched over years, not a single night? Could it have been a strategic display of the monastery's wealth and scribal skill, a prestige project to attract pilgrims and patronage? Given the inclusion of exorcism rites, some scholars propose it was a practical tool for spiritual warfare, with the devil's image serving not as an object of worship, but as a target for confrontation and banishment, a face to be stared down by a performing priest. Perhaps it was the ultimate didactic warning, a visceral, unforgettable illustration of the enemy of salvation, placed deliberately beside sacred text to emphasize the eternal stakes of faith. The Codex Gigas forces us to separate the sensational legend from the archaeological fact of the book itself. The labor involved is almost inconceivable, representing thousands of hours of meticulous work by a single, incredibly dedicated scribe, evidenced by the consistent handwriting throughout. This was not a casual project. It was a supreme act of devotion or instruction or both. The devil, in that context, may not have been an invited guest, but a captured adversary, pinned to the page by scripture on one side and exorcism formulas on the other. A prisoner within the very word of God, the book's true purpose whispers from its physical heft and its jarring contrasts, a silent sermon written in ink, skin, and staggering effort. Sometimes a story is more powerful than the stone it describes. In the realm of archaeological mysteries, few tales demonstrate this as vividly as the legend of the stones. The narrative, which first surfaced in the mid-20th century, tells of a Chinese expedition in 1938. Exploring caves in the remote mountains near the border with Tibet, archaeologists reportedly discovered a bizarre scene. Arranged in neat rows were hundreds of stone discs, each about a foot across with a hole in the center, resembling strange phonograph records. More startling were the remains found nearby, said to be of a small-statured people with unusual skeletal features. The discs, according to the increasingly elaborate story, were inscribed with a continuous spiral of minuscule hieroglyphics. When finally translated years later by a mysterious professor, the inscriptions allegedly revealed an astonishing account. They told of a spacecraft from a distant star system crashing into the mountains. The survivors, called the found themselves stranded on Earth and unable to repair their vessel, eventually perishing in the harsh landscape. This tale of ancient extraterrestrial contact spread through sensational books and magazines, capturing the public imagination and becoming a cornerstone of certain alternative history theories. The problem, according to virtually all mainstream archaeologists and historians, is that there is no credible evidence any of this ever happened. No scientific journal published the initial find. The named professor cannot be. The supposed discs have never been made available for independent study in any museum or university collection. When pressed, proponents of the story often point to known Chinese artifacts called Bai discs. These are jade or stone discs with a central hole, crafted by Neolithic cultures for ceremonial purposes, possibly representing the heavens. They bear no spiral inscriptions and are well understood within Chinese archaeology. So, if the stones are almost certainly not real, why do they persist as a puzzle? They represent a fascinating secondary mystery, one not of ancient intent, but of modern desire. The story emerged and flourished in a specific cultural moment, a time of growing fascination with space travel and the possibility of life on other worlds. It filled a gap, offering an extraordinary, romantic explanation for a yet-to-be-explained piece of the human past. This phenomenon shows how archaeology can become entangled with myth-making. When a genuine artifact is mysterious, like the dodecahedron or the manuscript, the void of explanation can attract narratives that satisfy our longing for wonder, even when they contradict evidence. The stone legend is less about deciphering an ancient message and more about understanding our own impulse to populate the silent past with epic stories of visitors from the stars. It is a cautionary tale, reminding us that the most seductive mysteries are sometimes those we create ourselves. Buried beneath a suburban Scottish football field for half a century lies a 5,000-year-old canvas. In 2015, archaeologists carefully peeled back the turf to reveal the stone, a massive slab of sandstone over 13 meters long. Its surface is a breathtaking tapestry of Neolithic art, carved with over 90 swirling grooves, concentric circles, and mysterious geometric patterns known as cup and ring marks. While these symbols appear on rocks across Atlantic Europe, the sheer density and artistic confidence on the stone is staggering, a masterwork of abstract expression from a time before written language. Seeing it is like looking at a page from a book where every punctuation mark is a profound statement, but the alphabet has been forgotten. The immediate, overwhelming question is not what the symbols are, but what they were for. Was this a practical map of the heavens? Some researchers see in the interconnected spirals and rings a possible chart of constellations or planetary movements, a permanent observatory etched in stone to track the cycles that governed planting and harvest. Others interpret it as a sacred map of the cosmos itself, a representation of different realms of existence, with the central cups perhaps symbolizing portals or points of spiritual energy. It could have served as a territorial marker, denoting a clan's land or a place of assembly, its complexity broadcasting the sophistication and authority of the community that created it. Many believe its primary function was ritualistic, a focal point for ceremonies. The act of carving the symbols, of tracing the grooves with fingers or tools during rites of passage, seasonal festivals, or memorials, could have been the entire point, transforming the stone into an interactive altar. The most poignant theory is that its meaning was never meant to be universal. This was not a public billboard for any passerby to read. Its language of spirals and cups was intimately understood by a specific group of people, a shared visual vocabulary that held meaning only within their cultural context. When that community dispersed or their traditions faded, the stone's message became permanently locked, a password for which the cultural memory was lost. After its brief reappearance for study, the decision was made to rebury the stone, protecting it from weathering and modern vandalism beneath a layer of earth and grass. This act adds a final, symbolic layer to its mystery. The stone is literally a hidden puzzle, a conscious secret kept safe by the very ground. It rests now as it did before its discovery, holding its intricate conversation with the past in complete silence, a reminder that some of history's most eloquent messages are those we can see perfectly, but may never truly hear. The deep ocean floor is the last great frontier for discovery, a realm where our maps still hold vast blanks. In the year 2011, a team of Swedish treasure hunters were scanning the bottom of the Baltic Sea with sonar, searching for historic shipwrecks. What appeared on their screens was not a sunken galleon, but a shape that seemed to defy the randomness of nature. They called it the Baltic Sea Anomaly. The sonar image showed a nearly perfect circular object about 60 meters across, resting on the seabed. With a thick, rounded central column and what appeared to be a long, trailing track behind it, the formation bore an uncanny resemblance to popular depictions of a crashed flying saucer or a giant stone mushroom. The immediate, thrilling possibility was that this was something not of this world, or at least not of the natural world. The discoverers reported strange electronic malfunctions when they passed directly over the object, adding a layer of modern folklore to the physical mystery. Could this be evidence of an ancient, advanced civilization, or even a visitor from another star, lost beneath the waves for? The scientific community, however, quickly offered a more grounded, though still fascinating, explanation. Geologists pointed out that the Baltic Sea basin was heavily sculpted by glaciers during the last ice age. The anomaly, they argued, is almost certainly a unique glacial deposit. It could be a large glacial erratic, a boulder transported and dropped by ice, or a formation of moraine, the rock and sediment pushed along by a glacier. The peculiar shape might be the result of subsequent seabed currents eroding the softer sediments around a harder core of rock, creating the illusion of a crafted structure. The reported stair-like features could be parallel glacial striations, grooves carved into the bedrock by the slow, grinding passage of ice. This natural explanation is the simplest and fits the known geological history of the region perfectly, a classic application of razor, the principle that the simplest solution is often the correct one. Yet the anomaly's striking symmetry and the compelling, almost cinematic quality of its image have kept the door open for other theories. Some researchers have suggested it could be a forgotten World War II anti-submarine device, a secret naval installation now claimed by the sea. Others wonder if it might be the remains of a lost Neolithic monument, a Stonehenge-like structure that was submerged as sea levels rose after the Ice Age. The true, enduring puzzle of the Baltic Sea Anomaly, however, is not necessarily its origin, but our relationship to it. It exists in a place that is profoundly difficult and expensive to investigate properly, nearly 100 meters down in cold, dark water. Without a definitive, close-up archaeological survey involving submersibles and sampling, the sonar image remains just that, an image. It becomes a test on the ocean floor. We look at those ambiguous pixels and see what we are primed to see, whether that's the clean lines of a spacecraft from our favorite films, the logical contours of a geological process, or the ghostly outline of a forgotten human past. The anomaly whispers a powerful lesson about discovery in the 21st century. Sometimes, the deepest mystery is not in solving what something is, but in understanding why we so desperately want it to be something extraordinary. It lies in the murky depths between what the evidence suggests and what the human heart hopes to find. A single piece of ancient linen holds perhaps the most debated image in human history. The Shroud of Turin is a length of cloth, just over 4 meters long, bearing the faint, straw-colored imprint of a man who appears to have suffered the physical trauma of crucifixion. For centuries, it has been venerated by many as the actual burial shroud of Jesus of Nazareth, a direct, tangible relic from the most pivotal story in Christianity. This profound claim has placed the cloth at the center of a storm where faith, science, and history collide, creating a puzzle that is less about what we see and more about how it could possibly be there. The image itself is hauntingly specific. It shows the front and back of a bearded man, with wounds consistent with Roman crucifixion practices, including marks on the wrists and feet, scourge marks across the back, and a puncture wound in the side. The detail is photographic in its precision, a negative image that, when photographed in the late 19th century, produced a startling positive print with even greater clarity. Yet the central scientific mystery is not the subject, but the method. How was this image created? For decades, teams of chemists, physicists, and forensic experts have subjected the shroud to every conceivable analysis. The consensus from radiocarbon dating conducted by 3 independent laboratories in the late 1980s placed its origin in the medieval period, between 1260 and 1390 of the Common Era. This seemed to settle the matter, labeling it a clever medieval forgery, but then the deeper puzzle emerged. No one has been able to explain or replicate exactly how a medieval artisan, or anyone else, could have produced the image with the technology of any era. The coloration is not caused by any paint, dye, or pigment. It resides only on the very topmost microfibers of the linen threads, with no capillary action, meaning nothing soaked in. The image has a 3-dimensional, topographic quality encoded within it, as if the intensity of the stain correlates precisely to the distance between the cloth and a body. Attempts to recreate it using known medieval techniques, like rubbing with a bas-relief, applying acidic compounds, or using primitive photography, have all failed to capture this unique suite of characteristics. Some researchers have proposed it was formed through a complex reaction, a chemical interaction between amines from a decomposing body and the carbohydrates in the linen, possibly accelerated by a brief burst of radiant energy. This theory, while speculative, highlights the genuine scientific enigma. The shroud, therefore, exists in a fascinating limbo. From a historical perspective, the carbon dating points to a medieval origin. But from a materials science perspective, its manufacturing process remains utterly unexplained, a feat that seems to defy the known capabilities of the very period it supposedly comes from. This places it in a category all its own. It may be an artifact of astonishing, lost medieval artistry, created by a genius whose technique died with them, intended perhaps as a powerful devotional object for pilgrims. Or its existence continues to pose a deeper historical question that science has not yet resolved. The shroud's true power lies in this unresolved tension. It is a mirror reflecting our own approaches to the past. For some, it is an object of faith, its meaning transcending scientific analysis. For others, it is the ultimate cold case, a physical anomaly that challenges our timelines and technical understanding. It asks us to sit with a profound discomfort, the possibility that an object can be both scientifically dated to one era and technologically inexplicable within that same era. In the end, the Shroud of Turin is less about proving a specific event and more about illuminating the vast, silent gaps in our knowledge. It demonstrates how a single piece of cloth can weave together threads of devotion, skepticism, artistry, and mystery into a tapestry far more complex than the image it bears. A monument's message can be perfectly clear, while its makers remain a complete enigma. In 1980, a set of massive granite slabs appeared in a remote field in County, Georgia. Known as the Georgia, they stood nearly 20 feet tall, engraved with 10 principles for humanity in 8 different modern languages. The guidelines called for maintaining the human population in balance with nature, guiding reproduction wisely, protecting people and nations with fair laws, and resolving disputes through a world court. A capstone bore the same message in 4 ancient scripts. Here was a modern artifact with an explicitly stated purpose, a public prescription for a sustainable and harmonious future. Yet from the moment they were erected, the stones generated intense mystery and debate, not because of what they said, but because of who said it. The entire project was commissioned and funded by a man using the pseudonym Robert C. Christian, who claimed it represented a small group of loyal Americans. He worked through a local banker and granite company, paying for everything in cash and insisting on total anonymity. His real identity and the nature of the group he represented has never been. This deliberate veil of secrecy transformed a public monument into a private riddle. Why go to such lengths to deliver a global message while hiding the messengers? Speculation ran wild for decades. Were they the work of a secret society with a long-term plan for humanity? Did they reflect a particular new age or environmentalist philosophy, seeking a literal stone tablet for its tenets? Some interpreted the population guidance as ominous, while others saw it as a purely idealistic, if naive, vision. The sponsors' anonymity meant their true context was lost. Were they wealthy eccentrics, a think tank, or something else entirely? The mystery deepened in 2022 when the monument was severely damaged in an explosion and later partially dismantled for safety. This act of destruction added a final, dramatic chapter to its brief legacy, ensuring the would be discussed not as a settled monument, but as a modern archaeological site, a ruin of contested ideas. They stand, or rather lay, as a powerful reminder that an object's meaning is never just its inscribed text. It is also the shadow of its creator. In this case, a shadow that chose never to step into the light, leaving us to forever wonder about the hands that carved a very public plea onto stone, and the private reasons they felt they had to hide. The jars of Laos do not stand in isolation. To understand their mystery, we must step back and see the entire canvas upon which they were placed. Across the plain, these massive stone vessels are arranged in distinct clusters, some containing just a few, others holding hundreds, scattered over a vast, rolling landscape. This organized distribution is a critical part of the puzzle. Archaeologists find that these sites are consistently associated with the remains of individuals and small artifacts like ceramic pots, glass beads, and iron tools. The connection to memorial practices is clear, yet the precise ritual logic that governed this entire system remains just out of reach. We can see the pattern, but we cannot hear the ceremony that animated it. The central question becomes one of sequence and intention. Were these imposing jars used for a practice known as secondary burial? In this custom, the remains of a person would first be placed elsewhere, allowing for a natural process to occur. After a period of time, the bones would be carefully collected and interred within the jar as a final, honored resting place. This would explain why complete skeletal arrangements are not typically found inside. Alternatively, the jars might have served a different purpose entirely. Could they have held offerings or personal goods intended for use in an afterlife, with the individual buried nearby? The beads and tools found around the sites could support this, suggesting the jars were part of a larger, more complex funerary tableau. This transforms the mystery from one of single objects to a systemic riddle. It is not just about what a jar was for, but how an entire society orchestrated its relationship with those who had passed across a whole region. The plain becomes a meticulously planned landscape dedicated to memory, each cluster perhaps representing a specific family line or community over generations. The effort to quarry, transport, and position these tons of stone in specific groupings speaks to a powerful shared tradition. Yet the exact steps of that tradition, the spoken words, the processional routes, the timing between death and final placement, have evaporated into time. We are left with a silent, monumental architecture of loss and respect, a pattern we can map with satellites, but whose deepest human rhythm we can only feel as an echo. It is a reminder that sometimes the greatest puzzles are not the artifacts themselves, but the invisible choreography that connected them. The line between a modern interpretation and an ancient symbol can be surprisingly thin. On the walls of the Hathor Temple in Egypt, a fascinating relief carved over 2,000 years ago shows a scene that has sparked one of the most persistent modern puzzles. The image depicts two figures, often identified as priests, holding what looks like a giant, elongated glass bulb. Inside this bulb rests a snake, stretching from one end to the other with a supporting pillar beneath it. To a viewer in the 21st century, the resemblance to a primitive light bulb or an electrical discharge tube is almost irresistible. The figures seem to be handling it with care, as if it were a delicate piece of technology. This single image has fueled a compelling narrative, the idea that ancient Egyptians might have possessed some form of advanced electrical knowledge, a secret lost to time. The visual echo is so strong it creates a powerful cognitive pull, inviting us to see our own world in the shadows of theirs. This is the puzzle of the light, but the true mystery lies not in the carving, but in how we choose to read it. Egyptologists and archaeologists who study the full context of the temple offer a very different and deeply symbolic explanation. The bulb-shaped object is not a vacuum tube, but a stylized depiction of a lotus flower, a plant of immense religious significance in ancient Egypt. The lotus, which closes at night and reopens with the sunrise, was a powerful symbol of rebirth and creation. The snake inside represents the god, a form of the deity Horus, emerging from the lotus as part of a creation myth. The entire scene is part of a larger cosmological narrative carved in the temple's crypt, illustrating the Egyptian understanding of the world's origins from the primordial waters. The pillar is not a filament socket, but a pillar, a symbol of stability. The figures are not technicians, but deities or priests engaged in a sacred act of bringing forth divine power. In this light, the relief is not an instruction manual, but a chapter from a spiritual storybook written in stone. This creates a fascinating standoff between two ways of seeing. On one side is a literal, technological interpretation born from our own era's framework. On the other is a contextual, symbolic reading grounded in the culture that produced it. The puzzle here is not about deciphering a lost technology, but about understanding a common trap in interpreting the past, known as anachronism. This is the mistake of imposing our contemporary knowledge, values, and assumptions onto a society that operated with a completely different set of references. It is the reason we might look at a ceremonial headdress and see a primitive antenna, or examine a geometric pattern and see a blueprint for a machine. Our minds are pattern recognition engines, constantly seeking the familiar, and when faced with the truly foreign, we sometimes dress it in clothes from our own time. The relief challenges us to do the harder work of historical empathy. It asks us to temporarily set aside our world of wires and currents and step into a worldview where creation was not engineered, but manifested through myth and symbol. Where light was not just a physical phenomenon, but a divine attribute. This does not diminish the ancient Egyptians' brilliance, it redefines it. Their genius was not for electrical engineering as we know it, but for encoding complex philosophical and spiritual concepts into a visual language that could last for. The real lesson of the light is about the humility required to listen to the past. We must learn to hear the myths it is actually telling, rather than projecting our own technological fantasies onto its silent walls. The carving remains, clear and precise, a testament not to forgotten batteries, but to the enduring human need to picture the moment of creation itself. Whether through the birth of a snake from a flower or the spark of an idea from the void, deep in the mines of South Africa, workers have occasionally pulled from the rock something that looks utterly out of place. These are the grooved spheres, small metallic objects, often no bigger than a walnut, with a perfectly spherical shape and 3 fine, parallel grooves etched around their equators. They are found embedded in Precambrian deposits, a rock layer dated to an almost incomprehensible 2.8 billion years old, a time when the only life on Earth was single-celled microbes in the seas. To the human eye, their symmetry and precise grooves scream of design, of intentional craftsmanship. It is an image that fuels the imagination, suggesting the possibility of a lost, perhaps even non-human, intelligence walking the planet in a forgotten age. The immediate, visceral reaction is to see a manufactured artifact, a tiny component from a machine unimaginably ancient. This is where the mystery pivots from the speculative to the scientific. Geologists and mineralogists who have studied these objects present a compelling natural explanation. They identify the spheres as concretions, not of a strange alloy, but of the mineral pyrite, often called fool's gold. Concretions are common geological formations where mineral cement fills the spaces between sediment grains, hardening into a nodule. The process can create remarkably spherical shapes under the right conditions of uniform pressure and mineral saturation. The enigmatic parallel grooves, the feature that most suggests tool marks, are explained as a natural weathering phenomenon. Pyrite is prone to a specific type of crystalline weathering where it breaks down along its cubic crystal structure. As the outer layer of the sphere weathers and erodes, it can retreat in parallel bands, leaving behind these precise, encircling grooves that mimic lathe work. In essence, nature performed its own machining, using chemistry and time instead of tools. So the true puzzle of the grooved spheres is not about identifying a lost civilization, but about understanding the extraordinary mimicry of the natural world. They stand as a powerful case study in the human tendency to see pattern and purpose, especially when confronted with an object that so perfectly fits our own idea of a crafted item. Our brains are wired to recognize design, a trait that served our ancestors well in spotting predators or crafting tools. But this same instinct can lead us astray when faced with the sheer, patient creativity of geological processes operating over billions of years. These spheres test the limits of geological explanation, pushing us to document and understand the rare but possible conditions that can produce such deceptive perfection. They also test the limits of our interpretation, challenging us to hold two truths at once. We can acknowledge the powerful, almost eerie appearance of design while accepting the robust scientific evidence for a natural origin. The grooved spheres, therefore, become more than curiosities. They are a lesson in scientific humility, a reminder that the earth itself is the greatest and most subtle artisan, capable of creating forms so precise they whisper of ghosts that were never there. They ask us to look deeper, past our first assumptions, and listen to the quieter, more complex story written in stone and chemistry. The desert sand holds more than just artifacts, it can preserve the travelers themselves. In the parched Tarim Basin of western China, the dry air and salty soil performed an extraordinary act of conservation, creating one of archaeology's most personal and startling mysteries. Here, beneath the shifting dunes, researchers uncovered hundreds of naturally mummified individuals, their bodies and clothing intact after nearly 4,000 years. What made these Tarim mummies so immediately arresting was their appearance. They possessed Caucasoid features, with light hair, tall frames, and wore vibrantly colored woolen textiles, tunics and plaid leggings woven in a style that seemed to belong not to Central Asia, but to distant Europe. These were not just bodies, they were portraits from a lost chapter, people who looked like they had walked out of a different continent entirely. Their very presence in this remote Chinese desert posed a profound and intimate question. Who were they, and what journey brought them so far from their ancestral homelands? For decades, the mummies fueled speculation about a lost tribe of European migrants, perhaps even speakers of an early Indo-European language, who carved out a life along the ancient Silk Road centuries before it earned that name. The mystery was a tapestry of biology, culture, and movement. Recent genetic studies have added stunning clarity, yet deepened the narrative puzzle. DNA analysis confirms these individuals had strong ancestral ties to Western Eurasia, with little mixing from East Asian populations at the time of their lives. They were, genetically, a pocket of the West in the heart of Asia, but this scientific answer only reframes the core enigma. Were they settlers who undertook a monumental migration across the steppes, carrying their weaving techniques and cultural identity with them. Could they have been traders, part of an early and forgotten network exchanging goods and genes across vast distances? Or does their presence suggest a much more complex map of prehistoric movement, where populations flowed in ways our textbooks are only beginning to chart? Their daily lives, glimpsed through their grave goods, show a blend of influences. They herded sheep and cattle, used wooden carts, and had knowledge of both wheat and millet. Their purpose in that harsh landscape seems to have been to build a community, one that maintained its distinct identity for generations, before eventually blending into the wider genetic pool of the region. The Tarim Mummies do more than rewrite migration narratives. They make that history deeply human. We see the intricate weave of a twill plaid, the felt hat placed carefully with its owner, the quiet dignity of their resting places. They are not abstract concepts of population movement, but individuals who lived, dressed, and raised families in a world far more interconnected and mobile than we once believed. Their preservation by the desert is a gift and a challenge, a frozen moment that asks us to reconsider the borders we draw on ancient maps and the stories we tell about where people belonged. They remind us that identity has always been carried on long roads, and that some of history's most eloquent messages are written not in stone, but in the very threads of a well-worn cloak. Their silent faces stare inland from a remote island, guardians of a story we have only begun to read. The of Easter Island are instantly recognizable, their solemn features carved from volcanic tuff. For generations, they were known to the world simply as the stone heads. Modern archaeology, however, has revealed a startling truth. These are not just heads. Each is a complete, full-bodied statue, many buried up to their shoulders by centuries of soil shift, with detailed torsos, arms, and hands resting across their stomachs. They stand not randomly, but upon massive ceremonial platforms called ahu, which often served as elite burial sites. This context transforms them from isolated curiosities into the focal points of a complex spiritual and social system. So if they represent ancestors, as most scholars agree, what was their precise, active role in the life of the people? Were they portraits of specific chiefs, their features carved to capture individual mana or spiritual power, believed to watch over and protect their living descendants? Could the statues themselves have been considered vessels for that mana, activated through ritual to bless the community? Another compelling theory looks to the island's harsh practicalities. The placement of the ahu platforms, and thus the upon them, is not arbitrary. Researchers have found a strong correlation between these sites and the island's limited, precious sources of, which emerged along the coast. The statues, in this view, were monumental markers of a clan's territory and its claim to a vital resource, a stone declaration of both lineage and survival. This purpose would make their creation not merely an artistic or religious act, but a vital geopolitical one, carved in rock for all to see. Yet this leads to the puzzle's most profound and cautionary layer. The societal effort to create and transport these ton giants was staggering, involving carving at one quarry, then moving them miles across the island, likely by a combination of rocking, sledges, and ropes. An endeavor requiring the coordinated labor of much of the population. This immense investment, some theories suggest, may have accelerated the island's ecological decline, as forests were cleared for rollers and ropes. They thus stand as a dual monument, a breathtaking testament to human cooperation, artistry, and spiritual devotion. But also a potential memorial to a society that may have poured its greatest resources into symbols of power, even as the foundation of that power slowly eroded. Their silent gaze holds not one mystery, but many, asking us to consider where the line lies between cultural magnificence and existential risk. And what happens when a community's most ambitious project becomes the very artifact future generations study to understand its fall? The impulse to measure the sky is one of humanity's oldest. In a quiet field in Germany, a simple arrangement of earth and wood captures this ambition at its very dawn. This is the Circle, a Neolithic monument constructed around 4,900 years before the Common Era. It consists of concentric circular ditches and banks with a ring of wooden posts inside. From the air, its geometry is striking, but its true genius is revealed on the ground on specific days of the year. The circle features 3 gates, 2 of which align perfectly with the rising and setting sun on the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. A 3rd gate aligns with the summer solstice sunrise. This was not a random arrangement. It was a precise, large-scale instrument, a calendar carved into the landscape by a farming society just learning to shape its world. The basic function seems clear, a way to mark the sun's turning points, to predict the deepening cold and the return of warmth. For a community dependent on crops and seasons, such knowledge was survival. Yet this practical answer only opens the door to a deeper, more intimate mystery. Why go to such extraordinary lengths? Building this structure required coordinated labor, a shared plan, and a sophisticated understanding of solar movement. Was tracking the solstice purely an economic act, a communal alarm clock for planting and harvest? Or did the circle serve a purpose that wove the practical and the profound into a single fabric? The alignment is too perfect, the setting too deliberately constructed to be merely a farmer's almanac. Many researchers believe the circle was a ritual space, a theater where the cosmos performed. On the winter solstice, as the sun rose or set precisely through its narrow southern gate, it would have cast a blade of light into the center of the enclosure. This event, witnessed by the community gathered within the wooden palisade, would have been a powerful spectacle. It transformed an astronomical event into a shared spiritual experience, a reaffirmation that the natural order, though chilling, remained predictable and under a kind of celestial stewardship. This likely granted immense social authority to those who understood and orchestrated the observation, the early astronomers or priests who could literally mediate between the people and the heavens. The circle thus represents a pivotal moment in human thought, a point where careful observation of the natural world blossomed into a system of meaning. For these early Europeans, the cycle of the sun was not just a fact, it was a divine drama. Knowing its schedule was both a practical necessity and a sacred duty. The circle asks us to dissolve the modern boundary we place between science and religion. Here, they were the same endeavor, a unified search for order in a mysterious universe. The puzzle it leaves us with is not what it did, but how it felt to stand inside it on a frosty December morning, watching the sun return through a preordained slot in the earth, and believing with absolute certainty that you were standing at the very center of a conversation between the land and the sky. Sometimes the most profound discovery is not an object's intended purpose, but the purpose it accidentally contains. Among the dusty shelves of the National Museum of Iraq sits a small, unassuming clay jar, roughly the size of a man's fist. It dates from the Parthian period, sometime between 250 years before the Common Era and 250 after. To the untrained eye, it might look like any other ancient storage vessel. But its contents tell a different story. Inside this jar, archaeologists found a rolled copper cylinder, and within that cylinder, an iron rod. The assembly was sealed at the top with an asphalt plug, a material known for its insulating properties. When this combination was first described in the 1930s, a tantalizing idea took hold. If the jar were filled with an acidic liquid, like vinegar or wine, the chemical reaction between the iron and copper, through the electrolyte of the liquid, would produce a small but measurable electric charge. In essence, this humble artifact could function as a primitive battery, a galvanic cell over 1,000 years before such a concept was formally understood in the modern world. The theory is electrically sound. Replicas filled with grape juice have been shown to generate around 1 volt of power, enough for a faint tingle or a very dim glow on a small bulb. This possibility ignites the imagination. Could the ancient Parthians have stumbled upon electroplating, using a weak current to deposit a thin layer of gold or silver onto other metals? Some have even suggested a medical application, perhaps using the subtle current for pain relief or therapeutic stimulation, a concept not entirely foreign to ancient practices. The image is compelling, a flicker of advanced knowledge in the distant past. Yet, the full archaeological context whispers a more mundane, and therefore more puzzling, reality. No such batteries have ever been found connected by wires to any object meant to be plated. No electroplated artifacts from the period show the distinct signature of an electrochemical process rather than traditional fire gilding. No contemporary texts or illustrations even hint at an understanding of electricity beyond static shocks from amber or fish. The mainstream and most widely accepted explanation is far simpler. The jar was likely a secure container for valuable scrolls, with the iron rod acting as a protective core around which precious papyrus or parchment could be rolled, and the copper cylinder and asphalt seal protecting the contents from moisture and decay. This was a practical, ingenious storage solution, not a power source. And this is where the Baghdad Battery transforms from a potential technological marvel into a deeper philosophical mystery. It represents the haunting concept of accidental potential. Here was a collection of common materials, assembled for a perfectly ordinary reason, that inadvertently created the conditions for a phenomenon its makers almost certainly did not comprehend. It is a shadow of an invention that never was, a ghost of a technology that sat on a shelf for centuries, holding within its clay walls a secret it was never designed to keep. This artifact challenges our linear view of progress. It suggests that the physical prerequisites for a discovery can exist long before the cultural or intellectual framework needed to recognize and utilize it emerges. The puzzle, then, is not whether the Parthians had batteries, but what it means when an object can hold two histories simultaneously, its own quiet, practical story and the loud, revolutionary story we are so eager to project upon it. It is a vessel that contained scrolls, but today it contains a profound question about the nature of discovery itself. The landscape itself becomes an archive, written not in pages but in pillars. On the windswept coast of Brittany in France, the Carnac alignments present a spectacle of such scale it seems to defy human intention. Here, over 3,000 prehistoric standing stones march across the fields in dense, parallel rows, some stretching for nearly a mile. They are menhirs, silent, and arranged with a geometric precision that feels both chaotic and meticulously planned. To walk among them is to wander through a forest of questions, where every stone is a word in a language we have forgotten how to speak. Their alignment is the first and greatest clue. The long, straight rows are generally oriented to the east-northeast, a fact that immediately suggests a relationship with the heavens. Could this vast stone computer have been used to predict solstices, equinoxes, or lunar standstills? Some researchers have identified alignments with major solar events, proposing the site as a colossal calendar, its purpose to harmonize the rhythms of a farming society with the cycles of the cosmos. The stones would then be permanent sighting lines, turning the entire plain into an open-air observatory where the movement of the sun and moon could be tracked against a fixed terrestrial grid. Yet astronomy is only one thread in a much thicker tapestry. Another compelling theory listens to the Earth rather than the sky. The region is geologically active, and the stones are planted directly into the bedrock. Some scientists have suggested these megaliths could have functioned as a primitive seismic detection network. The idea is that the stones, set in loose soil atop the granite shelf, might vibrate or produce audible sounds in response to subtle tremors, serving as an early warning system for earthquakes. While intriguing, this practical explanation struggles to account for the sheer artistic variation and the clear effort to create specific patterns, which seem to carry a meaning beyond mere utility. This leads to the most profound possibility, one that steps into the mindset of a pre-literate society. Without writing, how does a culture preserve its history, its laws, and its identity? The Carnac Stones may have been a vast, physical memory system. Each row, each cluster, each strangely shaped menhir could have served as a mnemonic trigger, a landmark in a ritual landscape where trained storytellers or priests would walk the pathways, reciting genealogies, myths, and territorial claims. The stones were not books to be read, but cues to be performed, anchoring an entire oral tradition to the land itself. The monumental labor involved whispers of this paramount importance. These stones, some weighing tens of tons, were transported over miles without the wheel or draft animals. This was not the work of a lone village, but a generations-long project requiring the unified effort of many communities. That collective will is the true, silent heart of the mystery. What belief, what shared imperative, was powerful enough to coordinate such an enterprise? Was it a statement of territorial control, a devotional act to ensure fertility, or a communal project designed to forge a collective identity itself? The stones stand as the ultimate cryptic testament. We can map their positions, measure their alignments, and theorize about their functions. But the driving vision that mobilized an entire society to reshape its world with stone has evaporated. All that remains is the physical proof of their unity, a forest of granite questions standing sentinel against the Breton sky. Guarding a conversation that ended thousands of years before the first modern listener arrived to hear its echo, a map can be a ghost, holding the silhouette of knowledge that has long since vanished. Our final puzzle is not a stone circle or a strange device, but a piece of parchment that redraws the boundaries of history. It is the map, created in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer. At first glance, it is a beautiful artifact of its time, blending the known world of the early 16th century with myth and legend. But look closer, and something extraordinary emerges. The map depicts the coast of South America with a startling accuracy that seems to outpace the European explorations of that era. Even more baffling, it shows a landmass connected to that southern continent, a land with features that some researchers argue resemble the coastline of Antarctica, a continent not officially cited until 1820. Over 300 years later, himself did not claim this as his own discovery. In detailed notes on the map, he explicitly states he compiled it from many source maps, including what he called ancient maps from the time of Alexander the Great, and even charts from Christopher Columbus, which are also now lost. This humble citation is the heart of the mystery. The map is not an original survey. It is a collage, a last surviving copy of a much older geographical understanding that has since disappeared from the world. The puzzle then shifts from the map itself to the shadows behind it. What were those source maps? Who made them and when? The possibilities stretch the imagination. Could they have been based on knowledge from ancient Greek geographers, whose works like those of Ptolemy were preserved in some libraries, but whose more accurate world maps did not survive? Were they drawn from the legendary voyages of Phoenician sailors, a seafaring culture known to have traveled far beyond the Mediterranean, but who left few written records? Some look at the potential Antarctic outline and wonder if it preserves a memory from a much warmer prehistoric period, when that continent's coast was not buried under ice. A memory passed down through maps and over. The most grounded theory suggests the map is a brilliant synthesis of all available reports in the Ottoman world at the time, blending Portuguese charts of South America with misunderstood accounts of southern landmasses. Perhaps even the tip of Patagonia, and layering them with classical mythology. Yet the eerie precision of certain coastal shapes continues to whisper of lost data. This map is a powerful testament to the fragility of knowledge. It reminds us that our timeline of discovery is built on the documents that survived, not necessarily on the journeys that were taken. Countless maps from every culture have been lost to fire, decay, war, or simply the slow neglect of time. Each one took with it a unique window onto how a group of people saw their world. The fragment is a haunting echo, a single page from a vast, burned library of global exploration. It challenges our neat narrative of progress, suggesting that the past may have been more connected, its horizons wider, than our surviving records can prove. It leaves us with a quiet, profound question. How much of history is not what we have found, but what we have forgotten taken together? These 25 silent witnesses form a kind of chorus. Their individual mysteries are compelling, but when we listen to them as a group, deeper patterns begin to emerge. We start to hear the common themes in humanity's unanswered questions, and in doing so, we learn less about specific answers and more about the very nature of what gets lost in time. This thematic analysis reveals that our historical silence is not random static. It follows a distinct and revealing grammar. A powerful thread connecting many of these puzzles is a shared gaze upward. From the solstice gates of the circle to the celestial gears of the mechanism, from the skyward audience of the lines to the possible astronomical alignments at Carnac, we see a universal human imperative to map the heavens. This pattern suggests that one of our deepest and most consistent drives has been to find order in the cosmos, to transform the terrifying vastness of the night sky into a predictable, knowable system. Whether for planting crops, timing rituals, or simply understanding humanity's place in the universe, the effort to chart celestial motion was a priority so profound that its physical instruments, etched into desert plains or forged from bronze, were built to last for ages. Their purposes may be debated, but their shared subject matter is a clear message from the past. Our ancestors were not just living on the earth, they were consciously, deliberately studying the sky. Another profound category of mystery arises not from grand cosmic ambition, but from the quiet fabric of daily life. Consider the Roman, objects once common enough to be manufactured across an empire, yet so mundane in their original use that no one thought to write them down. Or the figurines, whose strange, nurturing forms were clearly significant within their community, but whose specific role in ceremony or storytelling faded with the last person who understood their meaning. These are puzzles of evaporated context. They represent all the unspoken knowledge, the shared assumptions, and the ritual habits that glue a society together, knowledge so ingrained it becomes invisible to its own participants. When that culture transforms or disappears, it leaves behind physical shells, beautiful and baffling, stripped of the living culture that gave them purpose. They are the archaeological equivalent of finding a corkscrew or a potato masher with no manual, objects that whisper of 1,000 ordinary moments we can no longer reconstruct. A third pattern centers on communication that has been deliberately or accidentally scrambled. The lines were meant to be seen, but perhaps by gods, not people. The Georgia spelled out a message in 8 languages, yet deliberately hid the identity of the messengers. The manuscript presents the ultimate paradox, a book that is clearly communicating, but in a language we cannot identify and for a reason we cannot fathom. These puzzles highlight the gap between transmission and reception. They show that a message, no matter how carefully crafted or monumentally inscribed, is only complete when it is understood by its intended audience. When that audience is gone, or when the cultural cipher to decode the message is lost, what remains is not a statement, but a riddle. The intention to communicate is palpable, even urgent, but the conversation has been severed, leaving only one side of a dialogue etched in stone, vellum, or earth. Stepping back, this analysis offers a meta-understanding, a way to categorize the silence itself. We are not looking at random holes in history. We are observing specific types of loss. There is contextual loss, where the everyday knowledge surrounding an object vanishes. There is linguistic or symbolic loss, where the key to a code or the meaning of a symbol is forgotten. And there is intentional loss, where the purpose behind a grand act, like building or carving becomes layered over by time, leaving us to guess at the primary motive. Recognizing these categories does not solve the individual puzzles, but it reframes our entire relationship with the past. It tells us that history is not just a story of what survived, but a map of what was most vulnerable to being forgotten, the ordinary, the symbolic, and the supremely ambitious. In their silence, these 25 puzzles are speaking volumes, teaching us to listen for the echoes of what is no longer there, and to appreciate the fragile, human complexity of the world that came before our own. These silent artifacts are a testament not to our knowledge, but to its limits. Our journey through these 25 enduring mysteries reveals that history is not a closed book with a final chapter, but a living, breathing dialogue with the past. A conversation full of unanswered questions that still echo. These puzzles are not failures of archaeology, not dead ends in a search for facts. They are something far more valuable, invitations. Invitations to humility, reminding us that our modern perspective is just one lens through which to view the vast human story. Invitations to curiosity, pushing us to look closer, to ask better questions, and to embrace the discomfort of not knowing. And above all, they are invitations to continued exploration, proof that the ground beneath our feet and the archives of our museums still hold stories waiting for a fresh eye or a new technology to bring them to light. These enigmas stand as powerful reminders that the civilizations that came before us operated on a different wavelength of logic, with priorities and values we may never fully reconstruct. For them, the boundary between a tool and a talisman, between a calendar and a cathedral, between a map and a myth, was often invisible. What seems like an impractical design to us was, for them, a perfect expression of a world where every action held multiple layers of meaning. This gap in understanding is not a void to be lamented, but a space to be respected. It suggests that some secrets are not meant to be solved, at least not completely. Some are meant to endure, to keep the conversation with our ancestors alive and evolving, to ensure we never become so confident in our interpretations that we stop listening to the whispers from the dust. So let these stones, these manuscripts, these silent faces, inspire you to look at the world with a renewed sense of wonder. Let them encourage you to question the stories we think we know, to peer into the shadows of history and appreciate the beautiful complexity hidden there. For every mystery we have cataloged here, countless others lie undiscovered in forgotten fields, in untranslated texts, or in plain sight, waiting for someone to see them not as oddities but as questions. What other profound puzzles are waiting to be found, or perhaps are destined to remain forever unknown, keeping their secrets as a final gift to the past? We would love to hear your thoughts. Which of these mysteries do you find the most fascinating, and why? Share your perspective in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the hidden corners of history, subscribe for more explorations into the stories that shape our understanding of who we are and the silent world that came before us.